It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be covering Season 8 of Alliance. The special rules this season are defense cookies, 10% boost, healing cookies, amp buff 10%, and rare cookies, HP 110%. Now I'm sure that there might be some rare cookies to use in this Alliance wave to really solidify the wave runs. However, I'm not certain of who would benefit the best just yet, but I'm still doing research on that. But what I do want to cover is that the defense cookies HP, do not be fooled by this buff. Even though it's helpful and it does make your cookies just a little bit stronger, I do not think that it's going to be viable to run a defense focused team just because of that one buff. Instead, I think that healing buff is the best one. Here's why. The main team that I'm running is going to be the Summoners team, but with Purple Yam at the helm. Mostly because Purple Yam stabilizes his own damage resistance because of his magic candies, and he does some great healing on his own because of his Berserker Spirit. In addition to that, we're actually going to be running some pretty hefty defense on both Crunchy Chip and Purple Yam for the damage resistance, so that we can continue to get through the waves without losing our two front leads and having as many bodies as possible from the cooldowns of our other summoners. And if you remember from an older video I made when Oyster first came out, Pure Vanilla perfectly pairs with Oyster because the shields give increased defense and keep them alive longer for the minions, so that we get the most attack benefits possible from Oyster's summoned force. So we're going to be using the monocle, the scroll, and the clock to get through as far as we can. And I will discuss the toppings of other cookies on other teams as we go through. But this is my furthest wave accomplishment with this team. And just to show you before we get into it, we got all the way to wave 54 as passed, or we died at wave 55. So that's as far as we can go. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like and what it's going to be. So, as you may know from previous runs, my guild buffs and all of the other things that I have of accomplishments give me the ability to just blast through the first 7 waves of Cookie Alliance. At wave 8, you're going to be running into the guild boss. Here, if you're at a lower rank, lower level, whatever may be you, if you have issues with the guild boss, you can run it very similar to the guild team that you might use in Guild Boss right now. If you don't have that or you haven't done that yet, I would recommend 2 different teams, the Poison team, or you can do a Summoner Pseudo team. Both of those teams do really good against the Guild Boss, especially in Cookie Alliance, so that's definitely going to be something that you can run. Seafaery here, you can actually run a speed team really good against Seafaery here because she has no knockback resistance. So if you use Caramel Arrow and Wildberry against her, you're going to have a lot of good knockback, which means you're going to be able to keep her from activating that skill that's going to hit your team pretty hard. As we get further along, the main reason we're choosing summoners this season is that a lot of the waves have a lot of different enemies, a lot of different mobs to fight against. So it's not very specific, heavy unit focused as like powerful singular units, but rather just a lot of units. A lot of bodies, a lot of enemies, a lot of summons, just a lot to take down. And so that's why we're running the summoner team, because we're just matching body for body. It helps us overwhelm the small teams, and it helps us keep matched up to the equally large teams. Purple Yam's Tornado as well does a really good job. I mean, if I pause here and I show you the stats, Purple Yam's already done 11 million damage. Crunchy Chip is not far behind, and Oyster's doing great as well. And then when it comes to healing, Purple Yam's not far behind as far as the healing as well from the Berserker Spirit. So really, that's why Purple Yam's in the main team, is because of all the capabilities and all the magic candy activations that are going on with Purple Yam. I have considered running the exact same main team and running Espresso because of the injury and the interruptions, but I haven't tested it yet. It could be something good, but the main thing is Purple Yam has really powerful damage resist because of the magic candy, has really high level HP, So because of all of that, that's the main reason we're using Purple EM for now. And so that's what we're running with. But as you can see, we're at wave 22 so far. And we are doing good. Sorbet. This is a hard wave here. This is the wave where you can have some real issues with your main team, even with high damage resistance, high HP. As you can see, Sorbet can just shred through your main force. Thankfully, we have enough HP and enough damage resistance to survive it, but I will say that you want something that can either counter Sorbet very well or cage him up, silence him, interrupt the skills. You're going to probably need something, because if you don't have enough resistance, enough toppings, enough monument upgrades, Sorbet will probably wreck your main frontline team, and that could be an early KO to your run. As we get up further, you can see wave 27, very high summon unit wave. This one, if you're having trouble, you're probably going to need to run a speed team, just because they can infinitely pop out more enemies. And it's not that they do a lot of damage to you, but more so that they are just going to be able to put out a massive force against you. So that could be a little bit tough. Wave 28, not necessarily a powerful wave, but the Choco Werehound Princess can do a lot of knockback damage. Coco and Monocle really help against that. And yet again, Speed Team is going to do pretty well. So you can run the Speed Team through your entire wave. That is an option, but Summoners still kind of ranged a little bit better because of the body count. So it really is up to you on which one you have stronger toppings on, either Summoners or Speed. But those are the two renditions that are doing the best out of what I've tested so far. So those would be what I would recommend. Wave 32 with Licorice. Honestly, this one can deal a lot of damage really quickly to your front leads. So either have Sorbet or Clotted Cream or even Sea Fairy just hitting Licorice as fast as possible. Not necessarily a tanky defensive boss, but still a boss nonetheless. Wave 36 that we're about to get up to, that's going to be a hard wave. We're going to take a lot of damage. We are fine to run it with our main team, but be well advised. Wave 36 could be a very high potential KO wave if you are not running a specific team against it. I would say that you either need to have a team that you can throw away and be happy with throwing away with switching at the last minute, or have something that can take it out really fast, because the abilities here shoot through your entire team, so everyone's going to take quite a lot of damage. Now, because of our healing here and everything, and the shields, that's why we're keeping safe, and it's just barely enough. And here is a wave that's very minimal and very healing oriented, so that's why we're able to keep going with this wave. But nonetheless, wave 36 is a very dangerous wave. So I highly recommend caution on wave 36 for any players that might run into that. Next up, the next few waves aren't too terrible. Very heavy body count, not terribly strong, not too much to terribly worry about. Our next wave that we're really going to run into some true issues is going to be wave 44 and 45. 44 is the Rye Cookie wave, and he can easily one-shot your back line, so you need to be ready with some good damage resistance or some quick kill action to prevent this. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the speed team when we get to there, so that you can see how we take Rye Cookie down. Because we are almost to wave 44. And see, like, even these guys, they're just high HP, really tanky, so being able to counter them with a lot of bodies. This wave specifically, when I was doing the speed run, this wave presented a lot of problems to the speed team. So this one, wave 40, can deal a lot of damage to your front team. So the summoners specifically do good against this wave if you do have to run speed team, because of the body count that gives you fodder and protection. This wave can do a lot of body damage to Cotton and to Oyster, just because the shots hit through to the back line. So they're going to take quite a bit of damage from wave 41. So be advised of that potential here, and only gets faster and stronger as he goes. Wave 42, just a lot of enemies again. Yet again, another reason why we run the summoner team because it just works against these massive amount of bodies. Soon we're going to be running the speed team, and the reason we have Hollyberry is for that increased HP and the overall defensive measures for our main team. So here we go. Hitting against Riot Cookie just as quick as possible. Taking him down. Keeping the speed team for this level because definitely needed since they are equally as fast as some of our cookies. And then we switch back to our main team. And then after this, you can get Dark Cacao or Twizzly out because there are shielded enemies in the next wave. My main team can handle it, so I'm not going to switch, but it is something I recommend if you do not have the ability to survive stuns and shields. You're going to need Dark Cacao or Twizzly to move on and take that for you. The next wave that we will be switching for is Snow King's wave, and that's wave 50. When we get to that, it's hard to always make a recommendation of which specific team to go, but you can either go Team 3 or Team 2 because you just want to deal a lot of damage and a lot of persistent damage. So we're going to take Team 2 this time. We understand that we will probably lose most of the cookies in that team, and it is okay. Looks like our revival feather got used before, so we did not get to keep Oyster. I do not have high damage resistance on Oyster, otherwise she would have been able to survive all that. So we just have to accept the fate of what that was. And we got to switch before we lose the streak bonus. As you can see, we start to run into some heavy power and damage issues up here. And now we're just going to switch to the TK team and just persist through the remaining forces, because the next wave that's hard is the Muscle Cookie wave at wave 52, which is right here. And we will lose a lot of allies on this battle because Muscle Cookie hits really hard, hence why we have the insignia to try and at least get some really good damage in. And now we're going to take our other potential boss killing team and just run them in and try and get as much damage as possible.